Welcome to the second week of this Soften into Strength program where we're going to work on getting vulnerable, which I know it's super intimidating and it seems like this is coming up quickly, but vulnerability is a superpower. It's our superpower. Vulnerability is the way we strengthen our self-worth, how we strengthen our relationships, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with others. So this week we're going to get vulnerable to strengthen the bond of our group and with our fellow sisters who are doing this work together to make this feel like a very safe, intimate space. I want you guys to really see the power in vulnerability now so that you can use it as your superpower moving forward. Now, why is vulnerability so scary? It's because vulnerability really addresses shame. Shame. That's a heavy freaking word because shame feels really heavy. It feels heavy in the heart. It feels heavy in the body. It's the biggest thing in life that we just try to avoid. All those experiences, all those things in our life that we feel shame around, we just want to shove away, ignore, don't talk about it, don't hear about it, it's making my whole body go hot, it's making me sweat. But we don't have to carry that weight. Here's the great illusion of shame. Shame creates the illusion that we're completely alone, that we're having experiences that other people aren't having. And we're too embarrassed or too confused, too ashamed to open up about it and ask like, hey, is anyone else feeling this way? Is anyone else having this experience too? And so because we're too afraid to voice it out loud, we all walk around feeling alone with that feeling. And that puts up a wall. And that shapes how we interact with the world, how we interact with ourselves, how we interact with each other. And it's the work of releasing shame is really, really hard. Even looking at it is really hard, but it's so powerful. And when you can do it, when you can look at it, when you can voice it, it is profound, right? And I'll share a story with you, a deep shame story of my own that I have not been able to, I haven't told a single soul about until this last year, these last few months. So that you can see kind of like what the weight and effect of shame is when you just let it sit. And that is that in high school, when I was a freshman in high school, I got caught stealing money from my dad. Taking 20s out of his wallet because you know what? I wanted to buy the nice clothes. I wanted to fit in with the kids at my private school. And that's the way I thought I could do it. Was it right? No, definitely not. Stealing isn't right. What I allowed it to do was define me as a bad person. It became this little scar of shame, this little knot of shame inside of me that defined my relationship to wealth, abundance, and money for the rest of my life. It defined my entire relationship with myself and my feelings of deservingness and worthiness, right? Because I felt so much guilt and shame for what I had done, I blocked myself from receiving, and for years, for pretty much my whole life up until now, because I was so afraid people would find me out as a thief. This is the power of labels. I defined myself as a thief and I defined myself as a bad person. I stuck those labels on myself. And so for 26 years, I have not allowed myself to feel safe or comfortable when it comes to money because I feel like I don't deserve it. So anything that I have, like, yeah, it's like karma if it goes away, right? I don't feel deserving of it. And in general, didn't feel deserving or worthy of much, right? Because it's not just about money, it's just about abundance in general, which isn't always monetary. So that was a huge story for me that I didn't share with anyone until just a few months ago when I finally told my boyfriend. And now this flip side is the power of vulnerability. I finally opened up. I finally told him what I'd done as a kid, because I'm thinking like, we're gonna get married someday, like that's the goal, and what if he finds out and then wants to divorce me because he thinks I'm a bad person? Like these were the real thoughts I was having around this one story. And I finally shared it with him, and he was like, yeah, so he was like, I stole money from my parents. That's not me like brushing it off or casually saying that's okay, but he was like, you're a teenager. A lot of teenagers do that. A lot of teenagers are just trying to figure out life, and what teenager doesn't make mistakes? He's like, but that mistake doesn't define who you are today. And so he did two things for me. He held the space and made me feel seen without feeling judged. And he made me feel like I wasn't alone. And that was the feeling that was causing so much harm inside. That's the part of shame that is so hurtful and so heavy, is that feeling of being alone and isolated in it. When the truth is, we're not alone and we're not isolated. And there are so many more stories unrelated to money. Things we talked about in the challenge I hosted are feelings about the shame for wanting to say no to people, for wanting to set boundaries, the shame of feeling like, you know what, I just want to be that good person, I want to be that nice person because everyone likes the nice person, but sometimes I just want to say, no, you're draining me. That's a big shame thing. There's even shame attached to this label of like growing up, if your parent labels you as the easygoing kid, and then you start to feel like anytime you speak up or speak out or set a boundary, you're being difficult. So you hide it down and you try not to take up space because you've been given this feeling of like, well, I'm the easy one. And this is why labels play into this, right? And even the fear of obtaining more labels. Like we hold ourselves back from going for things because we're afraid that people are going to call us vain or self-absorbed or self-obsessed, right? Or greedy. These are all feelings of shame, and they all stem from somewhere. Each shame story we carry stems from a bigger story or a bigger experience that just needs some care and attention, and it wants to be looked at and spoken so that it can slowly release its hold on you. And that's why we're getting vulnerable, because we're going to start taking back. I don't know why I did that. That felt like, who did this? Obama? We're going to start taking back our power. But seriously, that's what we're going to do. We're starting to take back our power. We're going to get vulnerable so we can take back our power and we can drop shame. That is all part of softening. Because when you can drop the shame stories, you can start moving again. Moving in the direction you want to go in, because you no longer feel like that's not allowed for you. Like, it's okay for others, but not for me, because I have this shame that says that I don't deserve that. We're getting rid of that shit. At the very least, we're taking a look at it. And a look at what in our lives can open up, what will strengthen if we can soften our hold on shame. What will strengthen as we can be vulnerable and connect and allow ourselves to be heard and seen by others for who we are. At the core of who we are. And then when you do that, you become the permission for others to do the same. You become the invitation for other people in your life to do the same. And you can do it in small, silly ways. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be the big shame story. Like, another thing, as women, this whole idea that women don't poop and that's like gross and we don't talk about it. Well, guess what? This girl talks about it all the time. I talk about it with girls, I talk about it with guys, because it's something that I used to feel really insecure about because society kind of tells you should. And I was like, no, this is normal and I'm going to take that power back. And so yeah, maybe I'm the girl who looks silly because she talks about her bowel movements and is very open about her bodily functions. I'm open about my period. I'm open about sex. And it's because that's my process of breaking down that shame and of taking that power back. And that's why I know firsthand that the more you do it, the easier it gets. And you find out that other people feel the same way. Other people aren't going to be grossed out or put off by you, or you're not going to be rejected. You're going to help other people to feel more seen as well. Right? So first, vulnerability is going to help you feel more worthy and more deserving in your own life. And second, you're going to give that permission. You're going to invite others to feel that same thing and to experience vulnerability with you. And that's powerful. And that's what this week is all about. This was such a long video, but this is such an important topic, right? Like this is why I do this. The vulnerability piece is huge. If you know Brene Brown, she's the queen of vulnerability and becoming a shame warrior. And this is what lights me up. This is the piece that's going to help you through the rest of this course. It's going to be a huge piece that helps you towards the process of softening in general. So I challenge you to really show up this week, even when it feels hard. And yeah, we're here for you. And you're not alone. And there is no judgment, there's no criticism, there's just open, loving support, because we see you. We all see you. We all know this feeling, and we're all working through it together. So I'm so proud of you for showing up. I'm so proud of you for watching this whole video, because it's gotten longer than I intended it to, but this is the good stuff. And yeah, it's gonna be a good week, I promise.